Hi. Volume 7. Welcome to the Avisu Nadvaez Political Commentary Report. And there's a lot to talk about this week. Very serious. It'd be funny if it wasn't so tragic. But the GOP, they've made that choice. They've made a choice not to govern. And this week proves that. First, they said that they were going to shut down the government. And Mitch McConnell actually said on the floor of the Senate that there will not be one Republican vote to keep the lights on, to keep the government running. That is the most irresponsible. He's going to go down in history. I don't think he cares, but he's going down in history as the worst Senate leader in the history of the Senate. And that says a lot, because we've had some ugly, bigoted, stupid majority and minority leaders in the Senate. And then he finally realized the stupidity of it and allowed some of his minions, 15 of them, to allow the lights to stay on. So the vote was 65 to 35 to keep the government running. So that's example number one. But the real example that's bothering me is that finally on television, someone said what I've been trying to say and have been saying for quite some time. And that is that why are they focusing on the so-called Democratic Civil War and, they can't get their act together? It's a 50-50 Senate. And it's only a majority in the House by 3. So the Democrats have to be perfect, and they are perfect. If you're a white woman living in a congressional district that's led by a Republican, or if you're a white woman living in a state that has a Republican senator and Republican governor, well, let me ask you something. When Joe Biden and the Democrats went 50-50 with Kamala Harris making the tie-breaking vote, and the House by just 220 to 215, whatever the final tally was, just by not by much. The stimulus package was passed with not one Republican vote. That means when you got that stimulus check, $1,400, whatever it was, you can't thank your representative for giving that to you. When you got pandemic relief by having a vaccination and distribution, you can't thank your Republican representative for giving that to you. And when you got that child tax credit, you cannot thank the Republican representative for giving that to you, because he didn't. The Democrats gave that to you. How the heck can you vote for that Republican representative that's giving you nothing? And I'm focusing on the white woman, because the women of color got it, and the Indigenous women got it. The Latinas got it. The Asian women got it. The white woman, you don't have it. You haven't realized yet. And in my previous volumes, I talked about the abortion issue, because I figured that would be the one that would make you say, you know what? Boy, they're not protecting my rights at all. But I don't want to get into that again. Now I'm getting into what happened this past week. And it's important, because what happened this past week is an abomination. Because now we have an infrastructure bill, okay? 3.5 trillion, but that's over 10 years. This week, whether you know it or not, the House and the Senate passed a 7.5 trillion budget for the Pentagon, for bullets, for bombs, for planes that we don't need. We have enough. What we need, the budget, is not to pay our servicemen, and for intelligence, and for cyber warfare. My point making is that the budget that they're squabbling about, this Joe Manchin, my goodness, Joe Manchin and Sinema are a disgrace, regardless of how this works out. Here they are bitching about 3.5 trillion spending when the Pentagon is 7.5 trillion, and they approved it. And Manchin and Sinema, they want to talk about spending money on the smaller infrastructure plan, roads and bridges, but not about helping people. Now that's Manchin and Sinema. But let's get back to the Republicans. The Republicans are sitting back And they're not voting at all. The reason why we need every Democrat in the Senate to say yes to this is because not one Republican, whether it be Mitt Romney, whether it be the ones that are retiring, like that toothless Toomey in Pennsylvania, that stooge Shelby in Alabama, that gutless, neutered Portman in Ohio, they're retiring, and then the two-faced Collins, and then the Murkowski, who once in a while wakes up and then falls asleep again. If any of those Republicans just said, wait a minute, this is good for my constituents, we wouldn't need Manchin and Sinema. The reconciliation bill would pass because it's 55-45 with 7 Republicans saying, yes, screw you, McConnell. This is good for my people in my state. And that's what should be going on. But no one's talking about that. Joy Reid was the first commentator this week that brought that up. And Rachel Maddow too, I believe. But Joy Reid, for sure, because I watched it. And Joy Reid said, how come no one in the media is covering the fact that as the Democrats are trying to throw a perfect game, literally by having 50 of 50, and the Republicans, there's 50 Republican senators, and all we need is 1 or 2, but there's at least 7 to 10 that very clearly know that this is good for their state, and they're not voting for it. They're saying, Democrats, you got it, you figure it out. And Mitch McConnell is praying that Sinema or Manchin say no. Right now, as I'm doing this, Kristen Sinema left Washington for a so-called doctor's appointment. Meanwhile, she's going to a fundraiser. She's a liar. And Joe Manchin, sitting in his boat, almost heaven, is balking about helping people when he's in one of the poorest states in the country. And West Virginia will benefit more than any other state other than Mississippi with this plan. And he's sitting there saying, well, I don't know. What don't you know, Manchin? Let me tell you what I know about you. You have a coal company and an oil company that your son runs, and no one knows about that. People should know about Joe Manchin. And what's really going to happen soon, and this is what McConnell's really hoping for Manchin or Sinema to just break ranks and maybe even become Republican so that maybe he gets the majority leader again. That could be what's going on right now. That's the danger. And if that happens, hopefully there'll be somebody like Murkowski or Collins who will say, wait a minute, that's not right. And maybe they'll be just turn independent in order to do what's right and caucus with the Democrats. I know this sounds far-fetched, but I'm going to say it before anybody else says it. This is what's going on right now. There's pressure on Manchin and Sinema not only to not vote, but maybe even switch parties. And no one's talking about that, so I'm going to talk about it. Mitch McConnell is a thief, and that's what is happening right now. As I complete this video today, as you can tell, I'm not in the best of moods. This was a hard week, and I'm going to try to do this every Sunday, but there might be a second one in the middle of the week if we have, let's say, another week coming up the way this past week was. And all I want to make sure that I get through today to you, the listener, that the GOP now is trying to win by default. They're trying to win by not governing. They're trying to get power by doing nothing. We have to make sure we don't fall for that. Thank you.